Let's talk about Avery Woods. For the past few months, it feels like every commentary channel on YouTube has been talking about her. And honestly, that's not too surprising. Back in April, Hulu announced a spin-off of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and Avery was revealed as one of the cast members. The problem? A lot of viewers were confused because Avery isn't actually Mormon, but that wasn't the only reason people were upset. Over the years, Avery has built up quite a list of controversies. She's been accused of exploiting her children for content, criticized for mixing family content with sexual topics, and facing backlash multiple times for comments that many viewers found insensitive or outright offensive. She's even managed to upset parts of the Christian community after making controversial remarks about Jesus on her podcast. So if you've seen Avery Woods all over your feed lately but have no idea why people are so divided on her, don't worry. Today we're taking a deep dive into Avery Woods, her rise to internet fame, and every major controversy that helped turn her into one of the most polarizing influencers on social media. Most of you probably know Avery Woods as this glamorous influencer living in a multi-million-dollar house, posting brand deals, showing off designer outfits, and documenting life with her picture-perfect family. But that's not exactly how her social media journey started. In a TikTok she posted in 2024, Avery opened up about her past and how she built her online career from the ground up. According to her, she started posting on Instagram when she was just 19 years old. Around that same time, she had recently met her now husband, David, who was 24 or 25 years old and already had 2 daughters from a previous relationship. Back then, social media wasn't a career plan for her. It was just something she enjoyed. Avery said that both she and David were struggling financially at the time. David worked as a patrol officer while she was still in nursing school and money was tight. In 2016, they got married in a courthouse. According to Avery, David wore his police uniform because they couldn't even afford a tuxedo. Afterward, they took wedding photos outside a city building and shared them online. A year later, Avery graduated from nursing school, but life didn't suddenly become easier. In fact, she described that period as one of the hardest times of her life. She was working long hours, struggling to land the PICU position she really wanted, pulling night shifts, and trying to balance everything while pregnant with her son, Ziggy. Financially, things were still tight, and the life she wanted for herself and her family felt pretty far away.
Yes, you heard that right. Our lives were probably at the lowest they've ever been. David couldn't even get an interview at Home Depot. I was trying to apply back to Starbucks while waiting to pass my NCLEX, and I found out I was very newly pregnant with Ziggy. We applied to be on food stamps because we couldn't pay for groceries, and once I passed my NCLEX, I was able to work on a temporary license for about 11 months before my license fully transferred from Arizona to California. It was extremely hard to get hired as a nurse in California on a temporary license. So I took the first job I got in my first trimester of pregnancy, which was in a SNF. I only worked there for maybe 6 months. The program I graduated from in nursing school was an ADN program, so I was also working full-time as well as doing my BSN online. I always knew I wanted to do pediatrics, so I finally got a job after Ziggy was born to work at Rady Children's Hospital, and I was so excited. The only job they had was full-time night shift, but I didn't give a shit, because it was a full-time job and we could pay the bills.
Eventually, things started looking up when the family moved to Arizona. There, Avery was finally able to secure a PICU nursing position and begin building the career she had worked so hard for. At the same time, she was still posting regularly on social media. At first, it was nothing serious. She simply enjoyed sharing pieces of her life online. But as her nursing career progressed, her content naturally began revolving around healthcare, hospital life, and what it was really like working as a nurse. Then in 2020, the pandemic changed everything. Suddenly, people were fascinated by the experiences of healthcare workers on the front lines. While much of the world was stuck at home, creators like Avery were offering viewers a glimpse into a reality most people never got to see firsthand. As interest in medical content exploded, Avery's audience started growing rapidly, and it wasn't just followers she was gaining. A medical scrub company called Cherokee noticed her content and reached out with a paid partnership worth $500 a month. It was Avery's first ever brand deal.
This was when I also got my first ever paid collab. So Cherokee offered me $500 a month to post photos in their scrubs, and I about shit my fucking pants.
Today, $500 a month might not sound like much in influencer terms, but at the time, it was a huge opportunity. She was getting paid to post content about a profession she was already passionate about, and for the first time, social media was becoming more than just a hobby. Without realizing it, Avery had taken the first real step toward becoming a full-time influencer. As her platform expanded, she accepted additional sponsorships and brand partnerships whenever they came her way to help support her family. Around the same time, she welcomed her daughter, Stevie. Avery later recalled working full-time until just 5 days before her scheduled C-section. After Stevie's birth, however, something interesting happened. Her audience seemed even more interested in her family life than her nursing career. Videos featuring her children, daily routines, hospital visits, and family moments consistently outperformed her nursing content. Naturally, Avery leaned further into that style of content, gradually transforming her online identity from healthcare worker to influencer mom trying to balance work and family life. The shift worked. A whole new audience discovered her content, and her following continued to grow. In fact, Avery said her social media presence eventually became so large that it made the healthcare corporation she worked for somewhat uncomfortable. By December 2022, she stepped away from the PICU nursing and transitioned into cosmetic injections, but even that wouldn't last long. In mid-2023, Avery made the leap to full-time content creation. She hired a manager, fully committed to social media, and David eventually left law enforcement to help build the business alongside her. According to Avery, this decision completely changed her life. The opportunities became bigger, the brand deals became bigger, her audience continued growing, and she was finally able to provide the kind of life she had never imagined for herself and her family. Shortly after going full-time as a creator, Avery launched her podcast, Cheers with Avery Woods, on October 3rd, 2023. The podcast quickly became another successful extension of her brand. Just over a year later, in January 2025, the show was acquired by Alex Cooper's Unwell Network, becoming one of the network's first podcast acquisitions. And from there, Avery's success only accelerated. In May 2025, she moved from Arizona to California, selling her Arizona home for approximately $950,000 and purchasing a reported $3.6 million mansion in Calabasas. Today, it's difficult to know exactly how much Avery is worth, but most estimates place her net worth comfortably in the millions. By every traditional influencer metric, Avery Woods had made it. The problem is that as her audience grew larger, so did the scrutiny. And before long, the same content that helped build her career would become the source of some of her biggest controversies. So around 2023, while Avery was busy expanding her brand and turning social media into a full-time business, people had already begun noticing what they believed were problematic patterns in her content. At the time, these discussions were not fully mainstream. Most of the criticism was happening on Reddit and influencer discussion forums. Still, it showed that a growing number of people were becoming uncomfortable with the way Avery was presenting her family online. The biggest concern by far was her children. From the very beginning of her influencer career, Avery had featured her kids heavily in her content. In fact, many of her most successful videos revolved around them. One of her most popular series was her Day in the Life of a Toddler videos, where she would add humorous voiceovers to her daughter Stevie's daily activities. Viewers found the videos relatable, funny, and entertaining, and they consistently performed well.
Baba upside down. That mom gives me a kiss and her breasts fucking rank in the morning, so I push her jack away. Then I make sure to annoy my mom as much as possible when she's drinking her coffee by stealing her caramel and sucking on her finger. Then she makes me get my hair done, which blows. She does this every goddamn day, so I purposely yank my head in different directions.
However, as time passed, people argued that she wasn't simply including her children in content anymore. They felt her children, particularly Stevie, had become a central part of the brand itself. Now, family content is hardly unique to Avery. Thousands of influencers and celebrities post their children online. However, many people believe that the internet has become a much riskier place than it was even a decade ago. Concerns about privacy, digital footprints, and predatory behavior online have led many parents to avoid posting their children publicly altogether. Creators who choose to feature their children online now have an added responsibility to be extremely careful about what they share. As Avery continued posting family content, accusations of child began appearing more frequently across discussion forums. Some posts alleged that she occasionally shared content that exposed too much of her children's private lives, while others argued she wasn't always considering how certain videos could be perceived by inappropriate audiences. One example that generated significant discussion involved a video of Stevie licking cream cheese from her fingers. The video reportedly accumulated over 40,000 saves. Many viewers pointed out the unusually high save count in the comments and urged Avery to be more cautious about posting her daughter online. Another incident involved a viral telephone trend video featuring Stevie. In the clip, Avery positioned her daughter in front of the camera and used one of her legs as a pretend telephone while joking that Stevie was not as flexible as she used to be. Many viewers immediately expressed discomfort with the video and encouraged Avery to remove it. The situation became even more disturbing when someone commented "pre-order" underneath the post, a remark that many interpreted as deeply inappropriate.
The most concerning videos that Avery posted of her daughter was to a telephone trend a few years ago on TikTok where her daughter is sitting in front of the camera like this with her lower half pointed to the camera. Her daughter seems to be on a counter and Avery standing behind her, and she grabs her daughter's leg and uses her foot as a telephone, and in the caption it reads, "She's not as flexible as she used to be." One of the scariest comments on that video was someone who commented pre-order.
At this point, some viewers began arguing that Avery was using her children, particularly Stevie, as content rather than simply including them in family updates. Sometime later, Avery removed the entire day in the life of a toddler playlist from her platforms. However, discussions about the content continued. One Reddit post that gained attention criticized several of the videos, claiming they included comments about Stevie's body, footage of her wearing swimsuits, and other moments that should not have been shared publicly. The same post also highlighted that some of these videos had accumulated thousands of saves, which only fueled concerns about who was engaging with the content and why. As criticism surrounding her children continued to grow, viewers also began taking issue with another aspect of Avery's content, her willingness to discuss adult topics on the same platforms where she frequently featured her family. Around this period, Avery openly discussed getting breast augmentation surgery and regularly spoke about her life. Various clips and podcast moments involving discussions about oral and other explicit topics circulated online.
I didn't even give myself a chance to think about it. I honestly can't think of anything I dread. Sometimes anal can be kind of annoying because I feel like mentally I have to be in the moment and relax, because obviously it's not comfortable at first, but then you guys know I end up loving it, and that's one of my favorite things. But it's just if I had a long day or I am exhausted from work or with the kids, that's not something I want to do. I want something to be easy and not put a lot of effort in, if that makes sense. My fave every time is definitely David going down on me, and I feel like most females would say that.
Now, if any other creator was talking about these topics, it probably wouldn't have generated nearly as much discussion. The issue many people had was that Avery's content wasn't just centered around her, it was also heavily centered around her children. If your platform regularly features your young kids, it becomes difficult to justify mixing parenting content with explicit discussions about your life. Social media algorithms don't separate content the way humans do. Someone might discover your page because of adult content and immediately be exposed to your children, or vice versa. For many viewers, that was where the discomfort came from. Their argument wasn't necessarily that Avery shouldn't talk about adult topics. It was that parenting content and content probably shouldn't exist side by side on the same platform, especially when children are such a major part of the brand. Around this time, some people also began accusing Avery of promoting an OnlyFans account through this same social media presence that featured her children. These claims circulated widely on Reddit and other discussion forums. However, despite this speculation, there does not appear to be clear evidence that Avery herself operated an OnlyFans account. Beyond the concerns about her account, viewers also became increasingly curious about another aspect of her family life: David's 2 older daughters. People who had followed Avery for years knew the girls existed and were part of the family. However, unlike Stevie and Ziggy, they never appeared in Avery's content. As time went on, some viewers began questioning why the older girls were rarely mentioned and never shown, while Avery's younger children were featured so prominently across her social media platforms. Eventually, Avery addressed this speculation on her Instagram story. She explained that the girls were not loved any less simply because she chose not to show them online. While some people accepted that explanation, others weren't convinced. If keeping children off the internet was the safer choice, why were David's older daughters being protected while Stevie and Ziggy were being shared with millions of followers on a near daily basis? Some people on Reddit speculated that the difference may have been related to the wishes of the girl's biological mother. Up until this point, most of the backlash regarding Avery and her children wasn't exactly mainstream. People were discussing these issues on Reddit, gossip forums, and smaller corners of TikTok, but nothing had really blown up to the point where the wider internet was paying attention. That changed in February 2024. Avery decided to post a TikTok that many people still consider one of the most tone-deaf things she's ever said online regarding her kids. In the video, she shared some school photos of her son Ziggy and started talking about how much she loves being a boy mom. Now, there's obviously nothing wrong with loving your son. The problem was what she said next. Avery basically went on to say that she loves her daughter and thinks she's great, but, and this but is the important part here, her son has her heart and soul, and she was always meant to be a boy mom. And the internet collectively raised an eyebrow.
My boy moms feel me on this, but my son has my heart and my soul. I obviously am obsessed with Stevie Lee. She is just the greatest little girl in the world. But my whole life, I always wanted to be a boy mom. And I remember when I found out I was pregnant with him, and I was just ecstatic because I was such a tomboy growing up. Anyways, the whole point of me making this video is I had to share his preschool photo with you, because when I tell you, I opened up this email and I just hysterically cried.
People were not happy with the way she seemed to be differentiating between her kids based on gender. Imagine being Stevie and one day stumbling across a video where your mom tells millions of people that even though she also has a daughter, she was always meant to be a boy mom, and that your brother has her heart and soul. This was a very irresponsible thing to say on the internet. Thousands of stitches started appearing almost as soon as the video was posted. Several larger creators also weighed in on the situation, including Abby Echtel, who pointed out why so many people found Avery's comments problematic. Around the same time, people who had already been uncomfortable with Avery's content started bringing up older concerns as well. Many pointed out that Stevie had appeared in Avery's content far more frequently than Ziggy over the years. Their argument was that Avery had no problem featuring Stevie heavily in her content when it came to views and engagement, but then turned around and publicly declared that her son was the child who had her heart and soul. Whether that was Avery's intention or not, it brought a lot of the older conversations about her content back into the spotlight. The discussions that had mostly been confined to Reddit suddenly started reaching a much larger audience. People began revisiting concerns about how much Stevie had been featured online, and whether Avery had been careful enough when sharing content involving her. The backlash became so widespread that even the New York Times ended up reporting on it. Eventually, Avery deleted the video and moved on without really addressing the controversy. And while everything eventually settled down, the peace wouldn't last very long, because just about a year later, Avery found herself in even bigger trouble. In February 2025, Avery sat down with Harry Jowsey, you know, the guy from Too Hot to Handle, for a podcast episode titled Mommy Mayhem. And honestly, we don't know what got into Avery during this podcast, but she ended up saying some of the most unhinged things of her entire career. This episode was practically destined to stir up drama from the moment it started. The first thing people found weird and highly inappropriate was Avery's overly flirtatious attitude toward Harry. Throughout the episode, she kept asking whether he would date her if she wasn't married, made comments about moms being very experienced in bed, and even asked whether he would ever be interested in becoming a stepdad. This whole thing came across as incredibly awkward.
How does it feel to be in the presence of a MILF?
It's my favorite presence.
So we're just going to talk really openly. I like to talk about sex. I like to answer questions about I like to give my mommy MILF advice. What's your type? What's your 10 out of 10?
Actually, I think it's an energy thing.
I don't believe that for a second.
For sure.
What's the horniest thing you've ever done in the name of romance? Would you rather accidentally send your mom a nude meant for Valentine's hookup or get a face? Really?
Yeah, oh, I love mummies.
Have you ever hooked up with moms?
So many.
Aren't they way more,
Oh.
they're just more experienced and better in bed.
And they just know what they want. And like, come on, get out of here. Get out of here, you motherfucker.
So you're giving stepdaddy energy.
I would love it.
Not for me.
No.
Don't turn this into a I'm married, but hypothetically speaking, would you hook up with me?
Or, yeah, of course.
Woo! We got that on film. Thanks for being here.
Many people pointed out in the comments just how obvious the flirtatious energy was, and some even said they felt bad for David. What made it even more uncomfortable was that Harry himself looked a little caught off guard during certain parts of the conversation. Now, unfortunately, that was not the end of Avery's questionable comments. At one point, she apparently said some things about Jesus that definitely should not have been said. The entire podcast was already inappropriate enough, but Avery made things irreversibly messed up for herself by upsetting the Christian community. You can actually see Harry's reaction during the clip. He looked genuinely uncomfortable after hearing what she said. She took an already conversation and somehow pushed it into territory that many people felt was completely unnecessary. Even people who aren't religious found the joke distasteful. After all, making a vulgar joke involving the most important figure in Christianity is bound to upset people. You don't have to be religious yourself to understand why many Christians would find those comments offensive. Needless to say, the joke did not land well. The backlash quickly spread online, and Avery even ended up being featured in several tabloid articles because of it. But if you think she stopped there, well, no, because she also managed to upset moms across the internet with another comment from the same podcast. At one point during the episode, Avery said that because both of her children were delivered via C-section, she was still pristine down there. Ugh, what are we supposed to do with that statement? Because a lot of mothers interpret it as Avery implying that women who give birth vaginally are somehow less pristine afterward. Now, whether that was her intention or not, that's absolutely how many people took it. Women already face enough judgment regarding pregnancy, childbirth, and postpartum recovery, so it's not exactly surprising that jokes like this don't tend to go over well. And that's exactly what happened.
Your body isn't wrecked after birth. So a big influencer, Avery Woods, says that you're pristine down there if you had a C-section. Let's talk about why that narrative is harmful. First, just because you had a C-section doesn't mean that your pelvic floor is untouched. Pregnancy itself puts 9 months of pressure on your pelvic floor, and you still will need rehab and recovery in your pelvic floor after delivery. Second, our bodies are made to heal. A vaginal birth does not wreck you. Yes, you might feel like it, and your body does need time to recover, but your body is resilient. And I also think by her saying this, it totally dismisses how hard C-sections are and what C-section moms have to go through. It's major surgery, and moms have to go through a major surgery that cut through multiple layers of their tissue, all while taking care of a newborn and being told that they can't lift anything heavier than 8 pounds. And this narrative teaches men that 1, moms who have C-sections are just good to go after birth, and then 2, that moms who don't have C-sections are damaged. And that is just not helpful for us. So just a reminder to all the moms out there, you're strong, your body is resilient, you're not wrecked, and don't ignore the need for support even if you've had a C-section. Let me know your thoughts or tag a mom who might need to hear this.
After receiving significant backlash over the podcast episode, Avery eventually posted an apology video. Before we talk about it, let's hear what she had to say.
The episode that I did with Harry was scripted. These were questions that were, written by producers, and I probably should have spoken up and maybe dimmed it down a bit, and I chose not to. This is stuff that I have spoken very, very openly about on my social media for years. If you followed me for any sort of time on Instagram, I've done a segment called Saucy Saturday for probably close to 5 years now, where I've talked about the same subjects, and it's never been new. I think, obviously when you're speaking about those subjects with a straight single man, it might not look the best. In my head, I don't think about it, because when the camera turns on, it's entertainment, right? Like, we are both podcast hosts. strictly for entertainment. There's nothing else going on. But when I brought up religion, there was no intention behind it besides explaining that a lot of the hate that I get is from people that are religious and have Bible verses in their bio. And that is because I speak on subjects that are very taboo, especially when it comes to the religious world. And a lot of people that are Christian don't like the subjects that I speak about, and so they send me really nasty, hateful messages. And that was what I was trying to say. The comments after were completely unnecessary, and I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said anything like that. I need to remember that my sarcasm and my comedy is not going to be the same as other people's, and there's certain lines that I shouldn't cross, and I cross those lines, and I apologize.
Now, what immediately stood out to a lot of people was Avery saying that she should have realized not everyone would understand her sense of humor, and that's where many felt she completely missed the point. What do you mean she should have realized people might not understand your humor? Are you saying that making extremely vulgar jokes involving a religious figure is just normal humor for you? Because that's how it came across. Instead of simply saying, "I'm sorry, what I said was inappropriate and shouldn't have been joked about," Avery seemed to frame the situation as people not understanding her style of humor. And honestly, that made the apology sound worse. Many people immediately picked up on what they saw as an unapologetic tone, and the video did very little to repair her image. Shortly afterward, viewers noticed that the original podcast episode had been edited, with some of the most controversial moments removed. Even after those edits, though, Avery was so unfiltered throughout the episode that several of her more vulgar comments still remained in the final version. Now, a few months after this explosive controversy, Avery found herself in another one, and this time it was because of a necklace she wore engraved with the name Trig in one of her TikTok videos. In May 2025, something absolutely heartbreaking happened to an influencer named Emily Kaiser, who also happened to be a close friend of Avery. Her 3-year-old son was found unconscious in the pool at their home. He was rushed to the hospital but was later pronounced dead. The entire internet was devastated by the news. People who had followed Emily's content and watched her son grow up online were genuinely saddened and horrified by the tragedy. As you can imagine, there were also countless rumors and speculations circulating on social media at the time. In the middle of all this, Avery took a few weeks off from social media. She stopped posting altogether, and many people assumed she was deeply affected by the news, given that this was the child of one of her close friends. But on June 2nd, Avery returned to the internet with a video of herself doing her makeup. She didn't mention the incident. She didn't address it. She said absolutely nothing about it. However, viewers quickly noticed the necklace she was wearing. The necklace had the name Trig engraved on it. Initially, many people viewed it as a thoughtful gesture, but that appreciation quickly turned into yet another controversy for Avery. Several people across different platforms accused her of being tone deaf. Their argument was that Emily herself had not publicly spoken about her son yet, so it wasn't Avery's place to come online and make what they saw as a silent public statement about the tragedy. However, there are also plenty of creators who felt people were taking things too far.
Newsflash, Emily might not ever post again. Okay? She lost her son. She lost her son, and she is a family content creator. She might not ever post again. If I were her, I can't even begin to imagine, but for the sake of this video, I have. Okay? I would focus on my healing, number one.
Avery and Emily were close friends. Wearing a necklace with Trig's name could have simply been a genuine gesture of love and support during an unimaginably difficult time, but some parts of the internet strongly disagreed, and the debate literally continued for weeks.
Completely disagree, and if you guys know anything about their friendship, it's no longer anymore, and I'm sure for a multitude of reasons.
Now, after this entire debacle, people noticed something else. Avery suddenly stopped showing her own kids as much in her content. People immediately started asking questions about what had changed. Many speculated that it had something to do with Trig's death. Avery had already received a lot of criticism over the years for featuring her kids so heavily online, so some people assumed that witnessing such a tragedy may have made her rethink how much of her kids' lives should be shared publicly. But people also had other theories. Around the same time, Avery had moved to California, where child influencer laws are stricter, and children featured in monetized content are entitled to a portion of the earnings generated from those videos. Because of that, some people speculated that this may have also played a role in her decision to stop showing her children's faces as often. But even then, people couldn't help noticing that although the children were appearing less in her videos, they were still very much part of the content. Avery would still include their voices, film them from behind, and regularly use faceless clips of them in her videos. So many people questioned what the point really was if the children were still being used as part of the content and were still contributing to the brand.
You have posted so much content of them in the past how many years? It is flooded all over the internet. Everybody knows what those kids look like. Avery Woods can't help herself. What's the point of publicly saying you're no longer showing your kids' faces if you're going to exploit them anyway? Barely hiding their faces with drawn-on stars, having their entire bodies in videos, having their faces in videos, using them for affiliate links, and now just straight up having them in ads. She's not protecting them at all. I think that this is a version of making your child work. Like, if I'm being completely honest, and this might be a taboo conversation, you having your children go, can you run in front of the camera 5 more times? Can you actually hold the camera and film me? Can you actually let kids be kids? Like, why are they in this anyway? Nobody should what?
As criticism and speculation continued to grow, Avery eventually addressed the topic herself during one of her podcast episodes.
Hold back so much. And like I said, I would post 3 to 5 TikTok videos a day. Now I post 1 a day if I do. And so I'm sharing like 30 seconds to maybe 3 minutes of my day edited to what I want the world to see. And my kids didn't need to be a part of that. And so that's why the majority of times that I'm filming and editing, my kids are in school because, you know, they don't need to be my content. They need to be normal kids. And I feel really confident in that decision. And I don't really care what people have to say about it, because it's quite funny when, you know, the internet truly is a double-edged sword. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And when I shared my kids online, that was the #1 reason I got hate. Fuck Avery Woods, she monetizes off her kids, she exploits her kids, it's so fucked up, it's child abuse. Now that I don't show my kids, I don't care about you, I don't want to see you, I want to see your kids, I'm unfollowing you because you stopped showing them. What? First of all, bye, you're fucking weird if you're following me just to see my kids. See you later.
After the Jesus comments, offending all the C-section versus vaginal birth moms on the internet, and creating an absolutely ridiculous amount of drama, Avery's career somehow still continued moving upward the following year. At the beginning of 2026, Hulu announced that it would be launching a spin-off of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives in Orange County, and Avery would be one of the cast members. Now, people were immediately upset. For starters, the internet had already been side-eyeing Avery for quite some time. But what confused people even more was the fact that she was being cast on a Mormon reality show despite not being Mormon and not even living in Orange County, where the original show is based. A lot of creators on TikTok, along with the general audience, genuinely did not understand why she had been cast on the show. And while that controversy was already ongoing, a follower of Avery left this comment under one of her videos. Guys, she has to pay for the house somehow. Now, as we've already mentioned, Avery had recently moved into a California home reportedly worth around $3.6 million. So the comment was basically suggesting that Avery was saying yes to every opportunity, brand deal, and project that came her way. Because, well, that mortgage is probably not going to be paying itself. Whether that's true or not is obviously speculative. But let's be honest, this wasn't exactly a groundbreaking observation. People had been making comments like this about influencers for years. But unfortunately, Avery took serious offense to it. She literally put this girl's profile on blast by posting it to her Instagram story. Then when the girl later reached out to Avery through DMs, Avery responded, "You need help. Blocking so you don't have to keep coming back to harass me. Wishing you nothing but healing and love." And if that wasn't enough, Avery also informed the girl that she had contacted her university regarding her behavior because she was sure they wouldn't want a bully attending their institution. Honestly, this is by far one of the meanest things Avery has done. She's literally about to star on a reality TV show. If you can't handle this level of criticism, then reality television is probably not the career path for you. And can we all agree that the comment wasn't even that bad? Given Avery's history online, she has most certainly received comments that were far more hateful, cruel, and personal than this one. Using your platform of millions of followers to publicly shame this girl is one thing. Trying to get her in trouble with her university is an entirely different level of being petty. That comment was never going to damage Avery's career. It was never going to affect her livelihood. It wasn't going to stop her from getting brand deals, podcast sponsorships, or a spot on a Hulu reality show. But the actions Avery took in response absolutely had the potential to affect this girl's future. And that's exactly why so many people were disgusted by the situation. After all of this, it's almost a little satisfying to see that people have already started petitioning to have Avery removed from the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives before the show is even aired. Now, whether Avery will actually be removed from the show remains to be seen, but if we're being realistic, it probably isn't very likely. Reality TV has never exactly been known for avoiding controversial people. In fact, controversy is often the entire point. Networks don't cast personalities who never upset anyone because that doesn't create headlines, arguments, or engagement. And at this point, Avery has proven she can generate all three. So chances are we'll be seeing Avery on the show after all. And if her track record is anything to go by, there'll probably be plenty more drama to talk about in the future. But for now, we're going to wrap things up here. Let us know what you think about Avery Woods in the comments below. Do you think the backlash against her is justified, or has some of it gone too far? And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.